Okay, so I'm just in a floor plan view here. And I'm going to start with the storefront curtain wall type, just so everything's built in. We can kind of run through this a little bit more quickly. So under the Architecture tab on the Wall tool, once I've clicked on that, just the same pattern that we're used to now, click on the tool, and then with the Properties window open, just use the selector to choose, in this case, the storefront type. It's not necessarily relevant for this demo, but I think it's a good idea to just get in the habit of setting your walls to be based on levels. So I'm going to do that now. I'll just set the height in the options bar here to be set to level 2. It's going to make it a 4,000 millimeter high wall. And then I'm just going to drag out just one short little extension like that. And then I'm going to rotate into a 3D view. So there's my storefront curtain wall. I can check it in my elevation view there and see that I've got everything lined up with the levels. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a door into one of these panels. So as I said, this is probably the most frequently asked question, or one of the techniques that causes the most confusion. And the reason for that is because there's a few steps in here that seem kind of counterintuitive. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start out kind of how I would expect to. And that's by using the door command. You notice, of course, that as you do that, you just have these basic doors on the right. And even if you access other doors, you won't be able to see the ones that you want to use on the curtain wall. Now, you still have to go through this process to load up the appropriate curtain wall door panel. And that's just found in the Doors folder, so that much is fairly intuitive. And I'm just going to select, I'll go with this storefront double. And I'll click open. It's going to look like nothing's happened because it'll load up. You'll see it kind of think a bit there. It'll load up, but it won't be available in the Properties selector here. In the Type selector in the Properties window. And that's because this isn't really a normal door or a wall. It's a curtain wall. And as such, it requires curtain panels. So the door that you select has to be a curtain panel. And you're not going to actually see that option until you've got a panel selected. So to do that, we're going to use all those type selection tools that we talked about yesterday, one of which could be the tab. So you hover over the edge and you just click on the tab button. And you'll toggle through all the available bits of geometry that overlap there until you see the panel, and then click on it. And you can tell just by the blue there that what you've got selected is a panel. If you use the storefront type, there's this extra step, and that's that you have to unpin this. So it's got this little icon here, which is just indicating a pin or a tack, and it's just kind of suggesting that it's locked. So if you want to do anything with it at all, notice how over here on the right, the type selector is grayed out, so you can't change it until you click on that little icon. You'll see the little red X, strike it out, and now you've got the option to change the type here. And I'll see that door that I loaded up, and it's that one right there. Just remember that you don't select on the gray horizontal bar here, you just go right below it. So it's a little misleading. You'll think, well, I just want to click on the icon and nothing will happen. It's actually the text right below it that you click on. So it'll load the door up. Now in most cases you're going to be left with an extra mullion on the bottom. So I'm just going to click that, unpin it, and delete it. And there's my curtain wall doors. Unlike other traditional doors as well, one thing to be aware of is that if this was a regular door and a regular wall, the size of the door would be determined exclusively by the type, by the information stored here. It's a little different with curtain wall doors because the size of the door, the dimensions of the door are set entirely by the size of the panel. And the panel, of course, is determined by the location of the grid lines. So if I place this and I realize it's not quite the right size, what I would do to change that would be to select the grid. Again, I'd have to unpin it, and then I could adjust the numbers there. So if 2400 wasn't quite the right number, I could just select that and just enter something a little more appropriate. And then again, the same thing would apply horizontally. So 1428.6 leaves me with some non-code compliant doors, a little too narrow. I'd need something more like an 1800. I need to unpin it first, and then I'll change the number. And now I've got doors that are a little bit more realistic. Okay, and that's how you put doors in a curtain wall.